behind schedule eventually. Mr. Balsley has been the project manager at the U.S. Coast Guard Research and Development Center since 2010 and is primarily involved with the oil spill response research. He has a BS degree in civil and environmental engineering from Northeastern University and a master's from Worcester Polytechnic Institute. He also is a registered professional engineer with the state of Massachusetts. Welcome, Alex. Thanks for being here. And I believe you're going to introduce the other two people in your team.
Hi, yes, everyone. Good morning. Just want to make sure you guys can hear me okay?
Yep, sounds good.
All right, great. Well, thank you again for the introduction. And as mentioned, I'll be joined by two of my colleagues, Dr. Benedette Adawale and Lieutenant Liz Murphy. And they'll have an opportunity to elaborate on their project and their information as that comes. But first, as mentioned, I do work with the Research Development Center of the Coast Guard. And for those folks who are not familiar with the RDC, it's solely a Coast Guard location for development and serving to all the Coast Guard's needs. So we try to do our best in responding to various needs within the Coast Guard. We have 7 different branches, and 3 of us are within the Environmental and Waterways division. So oil spills and challenges regarding that, aids to navigation, and aquatic nuances in those different things. So for this presentation, we're going to be covering 4 active spill response projects and also doing more of a kind of a project spotlight, if you will, on one that we had done and will be completing, that had completed back in 2018, the Oil Spill Response Technical Evaluation Process Research. It's a long title, but I think that it actually will be very interesting for you as on that project. You'll see it can give you a little bit of that information today. I'll go over that. So there's a lot to go through, so why don't we go ahead and get started. I believe, Bernadette, you'll be the one advancing the slides for me. Okay. All right, great. So we'll start here. Okay, so here is a quad sheet that the RDC uses to communicate information about our project to the public. We finished this oil spill response technology evaluation process, it's a mouthful, research project back in 2018. Our project sponsor was the Office of Marine and Environmental Response Policy, MER. The reason why we took up this work was that MER and RDC would get cold calls from spill response equipment vendors, asking that we review and approve their equipment. So although the Coast Guard does not have the authority to quote unquote approve or certify any equipment, those vendors submittals still come in. So instead of letting them just collect dust on the shelf, MER decided that there was a need to capture and organize this knowledge. We thought we should catalog new and emerging response technologies by pre-screening them against a set of fixed criteria. So to do this, we would come up with a guidance document that helps the reviewer through the process of evaluating a promising technology submittal by a vendor. All right, can we go to the next slide? Just give you a minute to look at that. Okay, so to come up with an evaluation process suited for the MER's purposes, we looked at existing evaluation tools like the Regional Response Team's RD's process. However, we're not considering chemical or biological solutions like surfactants, dispersants, bioremediation solutions. So EPA has a list of those products on its National Contingency Plan product schedule with a summary of their effectiveness and toxicity. During Deepwater Horizon back in 2010, BP set up an evaluation process to identify technologies that could be used right away to help with the spill. So to support that effort, the RDC set up the Interagency Alternative Technology Assessment Program, or IATAP, if you will. was the acronym. So we evaluated over 4,000 proposals that came in through BP's spill response hotline. Next slide, please. So in coming up with the technical criteria for our new and emerging technology evaluation process, we borrowed some from our scientific review plans that we use in evaluating proposals for spill response prototype development. We also used the Bureau of Safety and Environmental Enforcement Technology Readiness Level, the TRL table. And so that assesses how mature the technology is. And so there's a number range going from 1 to 9. So our sweet spot is 7 to 8, which means the technologies have already been tested in an open water environment, but however are not yet commercially available. We also ran the draft version of our evaluation process by experts in the spill response community and received their feedback. So after we came up with the draft version of the guidance document, we went ahead with a mock evaluation or a run through to test how well it worked. We practiced it on some technologies from the IATAP database that I mentioned earlier. We had MER and some folks from NOAA, BSEE, Coast Guard Strike Force to help us with this effort. We learned a few things from this mock evaluation and therefore tweaked the process. So all of our changes from the mock evaluation were included in the final guidance document, which is now available to all on the DTIC website. So you can easily look it up with the document number on the slide, as you see there, or by the document title. The overall purpose of this guidance document is to take the information from the vendor proposals, develop fact sheets that MER can then store within a database for future use. Another goal of this guidance document is to make it easy to read, simple to use, and flexible enough to tailor to the different types of response technologies that do come in. We see it kind of as a living document that can be revised over time as response technologies evolve. Do you mind just go back one slide? All right, great. Okay, so we think this evaluation process is useful for a number of reasons. First, it will lead to a catalog of new and emerging spill response technologies that MER will manage. This will allow unified commands quick access to relevant technologies during a spill incident or other spills of opportunity. They may want to try new technology during a specific spill incident that has already been evaluated and tested on a large scale. This guidance document is also useful for the MER for a variety of reasons that you see on this slide. One being that the vendor will know in advance what we're looking for in a submittal and ensure that they include relevant information. We also anticipate using this guidance document to help ourselves or other federal agencies in selecting technologies for further, evaluation at test facilities such as OMSET or Cold Regions Research and Engineering Lab. So this was a brief overview about our spill response technology evaluation project, but I need to shift gears and talk about our active projects. All right, great. So back to our quad sheets. The first of our 4 active projects is the Inland Estimated Recovery System Potential, or the acronym, the ERSP calculator. We started this effort with a feasibility workshop back in 2017. we concluded that the offshore ERSP calculator that Bessie originally developed can be used for nearshore environments, but that it would have to be further modified for inland spills. Next, we did a literature research and had interviews with multiple subject matter experts from government, industry, OSROs, to gather as much information as we could about what factors and features we should include for the new inland calculator. Our challenge at that point was to then achieve the balance of making the calculator simple to use, however, simultaneously also provide realistic outcomes. The other challenge is to ensure that people understand that the calculator is a planning tool, not a response tool. All right, next slide, please. So in 2019 and 2020, we developed the conceptual model and design document reports. The conceptual model report describes a high-level overview of the calculator. It also describes the relationship of all factors to each other in a worst case discharge and average most probable discharge scenario. So the design document provides calculator algorithms that will help guide the overall software development. We recently awarded the contract to the RPS group to develop the software prototype as a user guide. Our goal is to have both ready for an independent review by the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine later this May. I also have a paper and presentation about this project at an upcoming international oil spill conference. So this is the second of our active projects that, again, focuses on the advancing of the UAS and the AUV capabilities to characterize oil on the water surface and in the water column in icy conditions. RDC is participating with Dr. Lisa DePinto from NOAA, and this work is a continuation of their previous efforts. We're interested in this because there's been a greater emphasis to shift the unmanned technologies to detect, characterize surface and subsurface oil in remote icy environments. This increases responder safety and reduces manpower, and will also help quickly transfer data about spills in remote locations back to incident command. We also want to better understand how different sensors can be integrated into the unmanned platforms for future Coast Guard spill response operations. We were supposed to start lab testing to determine the effectiveness of the 4 different sensors on the ROV, the UAS platforms last fall at the Cold Regions Research Engineering Lab in New Hampshire. But as you can imagine, the pandemic didn't allow for that. So right now we're hoping to do tests later this spring, perhaps in April, with field tests planned for later this summer or next winter season. After our tests, we will summarize all of our findings in reports and we'll share that with the public at large. So far, we hope to have both reports out by the end of this year, but it will depend on when we're able to go through with our field tests. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Adawale to continue outlining on information on her project.
Hi everyone. So this is the third active project with the Research and Development Center. So we are investigating the behavior of dilbit, diluted bitumen in freshwater environment. And the mission is to enhance decision-making for response to dilbit spill in freshwater environment. The goal is to provide the United States Coast Guard federal on-scene coordinators with decision-making guidance as they relate to the fate and transport of dewbit in freshwater environment. And in this, we are going to study the behavior and responsive of tools of dewbit spills in freshwater environment. As we know that the weathering, fate, behavior, and environmental effects of dewbit are crucial to consider when responding to a spill. However, there are few environmental studies on dewbit in freshwater. This project will be supported by the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative and Oil Spill Liability Trust Fund resources. The milestone for this project is we are in the process of completing a literature review paper. In addition to that, we plan to conduct two weathering tests, a cold weather test and a hot weather test in CREL later this year. And we are going to have a final report. And the final report will be about decision-making guidance for dewbit spill in freshwater environment. So I'm going to go next to Lieutenant Murphy. Lieutenant Murphy.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I'm the project manager for the RDC's Freshwater Institute Burn Research. And the objective of this research is to fill knowledge gaps about ISB and freshwater for regional response teams and federal on-scene coordinators. You can go to the next slide, please. So 2 years ago at this workshop, I described our ongoing freshwater ISB research that we conducted with medium crude and heavy bunker oil at the small, meso, and large scales. The results of that research, to include burn efficiency calculations, chemical analysis of residue, and emissions analysis, is under Coast Guard headquarters review for public release any day now. Our future research plans include incorporation of ISB in the oil and ice sensor research that Alex spoke of this spring, where we'll take the opportunity to further measure smoke plume emissions via small UAS to characterize the burn residue and evaluate burn efficiency. Additional dedicated ISB tests are scheduled for May of this year at CREL, the Army Corps' Cold Region Research and Engineering Lab in New Hanover. And during those tests, we'll compare burn efficiency, plume emissions, and residue chemistry in both saltwater and freshwater, so we can better understand if and what the differences in the burn behavior may be for a particular oil type in each environment. And those results will help determine the applicability of saltwater ISB knowledge to the freshwater environment. Furthermore, we're going to look at the use of high definition LiDAR as an alternative means to evaluate smoke plume emissions. All of that will be in May of this year, if all goes well. Next slide. So thank you very much for your time. We can take any questions you have, and please reach out to Benedette, Alex, or myself at the addresses you see here if you have any further questions or input. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Murphy. That's great stuff. The Coast Guard is always doing phenomenal research, and we so appreciate it. And it's meaningful. It helps us do our jobs better across the board. Lindsay, Jenna, do we have any questions?
Yes, there were 2 questions that came up to Alex during Alex's portion of the presentation, requesting the guidance document number, the DTCI website information.
Sure.
Those were the only questions we had. Thank you.
Yeah, so you'll be able to search by my name. Actually, it's a good opportunity for me to share that. So all of our public reports are available at the DTIC website. So that includes any previous research projects that have been performed in the past. I think they've made it a concentrated effort to make everything of our reports available on that site, including the older reports as well. So we're trying to make sure we capture all the knowledge that we've gained and make that publicly available on that site. I think it's actually gone under some revision on that site, so it should be a little bit easier as far as navigating and finding the documents compared to how it was. Maybe your previous experience was a little rough, but I believe they did a redesign last year. So for those who have used it previously, just to know that they did do a redesign this previous year, so that navigation has been enhanced.